My name is Tyler Brooks, and this happened on the coast of Oregon, near a quiet stretch locals call Driftwood Beach. It's not a tourist place. No restaurants. No lights. Just miles of gray sand, cold water, and thick forest behind the dunes. That night, it was just me and my friend Aaron Fletcher. We had driven out there around 9 p.m. after work. Aaron had just broken up with his girlfriend and wanted to clear his head. We grabbed some beers parked near the dunes and walked down to the water. The tide was going out, leaving huge patches of wet sand that reflected the moonlight. The ocean was loud but steady. Nothing unusual. For about an hour we just talked. No one else was around. No houses, no cars, nothing. Around 10:30 p.m., Aaron suddenly stopped talking. He was staring down the beach. "Hey, do you see that?" he asked quietly. I looked where he was pointing. At first I thought it was driftwood, just a long dark shape lying near the waterline about 60 yards away. But then the shape moved, not like an animal, more like something slowly shifting its weight. Aaron laughed nervously, probably some seal or something. We started walking closer. That was the first mistake. As we got closer, the thing slowly stood up, and that's when my stomach dropped. It was a person, but something about the way they stood was wrong. Their arms hung too long, almost past their knees. Their head tilted slightly to one side like their neck couldn't hold it straight. They were completely still. No movement, no walking, just standing there. The moonlight reflected off the wet sand, and I could barely see their face, but I remember thinking the skin looked pale. Not just light, pale like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. Aaron called out, "Hey, you were right out there." No response. The person didn't move, not even a little. A cold wind rolled off the ocean, and I suddenly had this awful feeling we were being watched. Not just by that figure, by something else. Aaron took another step forward and yelled louder, "Hey man, do you need help?" That's when the figure finally reacted. Slowly, very slowly, it turned its head toward us. But the body didn't move, just the head. The angle was wrong, almost unnatural. Then it took a step toward us. The sound of wet sand squishing under its feet carried across the beach. Step, pause, step, pause. Something about the way it walked didn't look human. The legs bent strangely like the joints were stiff. Aaron whispered, "Dude, something's not right." We both took a step back, and the moment we did, the figure stopped, completely still again, like it was copying us. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Then Aaron tried something. He waved his arm. "Hey, are you okay?" The figure suddenly jerked its arm upward. Not a normal wave, more like a delayed imitation. But the movement was too fast, too sharp, like a puppet being yanked by strings. I felt my chest tighten. "Let's go back to the car," I whispered. Aaron nodded. We started walking backward toward the dunes. And the moment we did, the figure started walking again. Faster this time. Step, step, step. Still silent. Still stiff. Still wrong. Aaron whispered, "Dude, it's following us." And when I looked up again, it wasn't walking anymore. It was running. The moment that thing started running, my brain went straight into panic. Aaron yelled, "Run." We turned and sprinted toward the dunes. The sand made it hard to move fast, and the sound of our shoes hitting the wet ground mixed with the crashing waves behind us. But something else was louder. Footsteps. Fast ones. Too fast. I glanced back. The figure was closing the distance quickly, but the way it ran made my stomach twist. Its arms barely moved. Its legs snapped forward stiffly like joints bending in the wrong direction. Its head stayed tilted sideways the entire time. And the worst part, I still couldn't clearly see its face. Just pale skin, and darkness where the eyes should be. Aaron tripped on a piece of driftwood and hit the sand hard. "Tyler," he shouted. I grabbed his arm and pulled him up. Behind us, the footsteps got louder. Closer, closer. We were maybe 30 yards from the dunes when something strange happened. The footsteps suddenly stopped. Completely. Aaron and I both slowed down and turned around. The beach behind us was empty. Nothing. No running figure. No movement. Just the empty shoreline and the dark ocean. Aaron bent over trying to catch his breath. "What the hell was that?" he said. "I don't know," I replied. We stood there for maybe 10 seconds, scanning the beach. Then Aaron pointed. "Tyler." I followed his finger. At the top of the dune, right between the tall grass, the figure was standing there. It was closer now. Much closer. Close enough that I could finally see its face. I wish I hadn't. Its skin looked gray and tight, stretched thin across its skull. The eyes were wide, open, reflecting the moonlight like glass. And the mouth was smiling. Too wide. Way too wide. Aaron whispered, "That's not a person." The thing tilted its head further, then made a sound. A quiet, broken sound, like someone trying to laugh without knowing how. That was enough. We bolted the last stretch toward the parking lot. Our car was the only one there. Aaron fumbled the keys while I kept looking back toward the dune. The figure's gone again. Completely gone. "Get in," Aaron shouted. We jumped inside and locked the doors. Aaron started the engine and turned the headlights toward the dunes. The beams lit up the grass and sand. Nothing. No footprints. No movement. Just wind blowing through the tall grass. Aaron pulled out fast tires, spinning on the gravel as we drove back toward the highway. Neither of us spoke for almost 10 minutes. Finally, Aaron said quietly, "Did you see its face?" I nodded. "Yeah." Then he said something that still bothers me to this day. When it was standing on the dune, I swear it wasn't looking at us. I frowned. "What do you mean?" Aaron stared straight ahead at the road. "I think it was looking at something behind us." We never went back to that beach again. And a few months later, I read something strange online. A missing persons report. Someone had disappeared from that exact stretch of coastline 2 years earlier. The last photo they ever took was on Driftwood Beach. In the background of the picture, there was a pale figure standing near the water, watching them. I've always loved the ocean. The sound of waves at night, the cold wind coming off the water, the empty shoreline after tourists leave. That year, I rented a small beach house with my cousin Tyler for a week. Nothing fancy, just an old wooden place sitting a little above the sand with a narrow path leading down to the shore. The first few nights were normal. We grilled, watched movies, and walked the beach at night. Lincoln City gets pretty empty once the sun goes down, especially the part we were staying in. Just miles of dark shoreline and the constant sound of waves crashing in the distance. On the fourth night, Tyler went to bed early. He had a long drive the next morning and wanted to get some sleep. I stayed up watching TV until around midnight. The house felt strangely quiet, so I grabbed a flashlight and decided to take a quick walk down to the water. That's when things started to feel wrong. The beach was darker than usual. The moon was mostly covered by clouds, and the only light came from my flashlight and the faint glow from houses way down the shore. At first, everything seemed normal. Then I noticed something near the waterline. A small boat. Not a fishing boat or anything big. More like a narrow wooden rowboat. It was sitting crooked in the sand where the tide had pushed it up. That was already strange. This part of the beach didn't have docks nearby, and I hadn't seen any boats out during the day. Curious, I walked closer. The boat looked old. The wood was faded and cracked like it had been sitting in the ocean for years. But the weirdest part was the rope tied to the front. It wasn't tied to anything. It just trailed into the water. I remember shining my flashlight into the boat, expecting to see fishing gear or trash. Instead, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A pair of soaking wet shoes. Men's shoes. They were placed neatly in the middle of the boat, like someone had taken them off before stepping out. I suddenly felt this heavy sense that I wasn't alone. The beach was silent, except for the waves. But something about the air felt tense, like someone was watching me from the darkness. I turned and scanned the shoreline with my flashlight. Nothing. Just sand and black ocean. I told myself it was probably some fisherman who lost his boat earlier and walked home barefoot. But as I turned back toward the path to the house, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, wet footsteps, like someone walking through shallow water. I froze. The sound stopped immediately. For a few seconds, all I could hear was my own breathing. Then the footsteps started again, closer this time. I spun around and pointed the flashlight toward the ocean. For a moment, the beam just bounced across the waves. Then I saw it. About 20 yards out in the water, something was standing there. A man. At least I think it was a man. The water was up to his chest, and he wasn't moving. He was just standing there facing the shore. Facing me. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could tell one thing. He wasn't trying to come out of the water. He was just watching me. I shouted, "Hey, are you okay?" No response. The figure didn't move. Then slowly, it lifted one arm and pointed directly at the boat. A cold chill ran down my spine because the hand that pointed at the boat looked completely pale, almost gray, and the arm looked wrong, way too thin, like something that had been underwater for a very long time. That was the moment I realized something was seriously wrong. And then the figure started moving toward shore. At first, the figure moved slowly through the water, step by step. The waves pushed against its body, but it kept coming toward the beach, toward me. My brain tried to come up with logical explanations. Maybe it was a swimmer, maybe someone drunk, maybe someone who needed help. But something about the way it moved felt completely unnatural. The steps were stiff, uneven, like the person wasn't used to walking anymore. The closer it got, the clearer I could see the shape of its body under the dim light. Its shoulders were extremely thin, its head tilted slightly to one side, and its arms hung strangely long at its sides. I backed away slowly. "Hey, do you need help?" I called out again. No answer. The water dropped from chest level to waist level as the figure reached the shallows. And that's when the smell hit me. A horrible smell, like rotting seaweed, mixed with something much worse. My stomach turned instantly. The figure stepped onto the wet sand. Now it was maybe 15 feet away. The flashlight beam shook in my hands as I pointed it directly at the person's face. I wish I hadn't. The skin looked pale and swollen. Patches of dark discoloration covered parts of the neck and jaw. But the worst part was the eyes. They were open, wide open, but completely lifeless, like the eyes of someone who had been dead for days. My entire body locked up. The thing took another step forward. Its wet clothes clung tightly to its body, and the fabric looked torn in places. Then it spoke, or at least tried to. A low, broken sound came out of its throat. Not words, just this horrible, wet, gurgling noise. I turned and ran. I didn't even think. I just ran up the path toward the house as fast as I could. Behind me, I heard something dragging across the sand. Fast, way faster than before. I slammed the door of the beach house and locked it. Tyler woke up immediately. "What the hell is going on?" he said. I couldn't even explain properly. I just kept saying someone was outside. We both looked through the window, facing the beach. For a few seconds, there was nothing, just darkness. Then Tyler suddenly whispered, "Ryan, what is that?" Standing at the bottom of the wooden stairs leading down to the sand was the figure. It had followed me all the way from the shoreline. It stood perfectly still, staring up at the house. The porch light barely illuminated its face, but I could still see those lifeless eyes looking directly at us. We didn't sleep that night. We sat there watching the beach until the sun came up. Sometime around dawn, the figure was gone. Just gone. When daylight finally hit the beach, we went down to look. The rowboat was still there. The shoes were still inside it. But something new had appeared in the sand. Footprints. Bare footprints. They started at the boat, walked out of the water, came all the way up to the bottom of the house stairs, and then turned around and went back into the ocean. We reported it to the local police later that day. At first, they didn't seem to take it seriously. But one officer eventually told us something that still bothers me. 3 days before we arrived, a man named Evan Brooks had gone missing while kayaking off the coast near that exact stretch of beach. His kayak was found drifting a mile away. but his body was never recovered. I don't know what we saw that night, but I know one thing for sure. Whatever walked out of that water should not have been alive.